I'm Andrew Grant Mackenzie and I'm the Highland Historian. You can find me at facebook.com/Highland Historian, and also you can have a look at my website at highlandhistorian.com. Due to the outbreak of coronavirus COVID-19, my role as a tour guide has unfortunately had to be put on hold. I am still doing research projects for people, which includes genealogy projects. If you do want to ask me for a quotation for something like that, then do get in touch at andrew@highlandhistorian.com. This is one of my new style of videos, which I'm calling takeaway tours. Now, the original intention was that I was going to go and drive around and do some filming whilst people weren't able to travel to Scotland. But unfortunately, since then, things have progressed quite rapidly, and we're now effectively locked down in Scotland, which means that unnecessary travel cannot go ahead. What I'm going to do is put together as many videos as I can using footage that I've taken at other times, and also images and slides that I'm putting together to make short videos. These videos will be about 5 to 10 minutes long, and I hope you really enjoy them. All of these videos are going to be in line with government advice, so I'm not going out and filming them. I'm not having any contact with anyone outside of household, and I'm just trying to do as much as I can with the bits of footage that I do have. Unfortunately, my income has taken a big hit this year. If you do want to support my online work at any time, regardless of coronavirus, I do have a contributions page set up, which is paypal.me/Highland Historian, and any contributions of any amount will be very gratefully received, and that'll keep me doing what I'm doing. So, enough of that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be posting as many as I can in the coming weeks. Thanks very much. Today we're heading from Inverness in the north over the Darver Moor, which as you can see is now plain moorland but was once covered in forests, all the way to the Cairngorms National Park. And we're going to be looking at some fairy traditions in the Cairngorms area. I'm bringing Bran with me today, and for good reason, and that's because if a normal dog sees a fairy dog, which tends to be green, then the normal dog will lie on the floor and howl continuously. So it's a good way of watching out for fairies. Now, you might think I've gone mad, but fairy tradition in Scotland has some significant historical truths to it. So we're going to take a little bit of a look at that today. Here we are parked up on Cairngorm Mountain, and the Cairngorm Plateau is the highest continuous mountain plateau in Scotland. It's a great place for skiing. It's a fabulous place for ice climbing when the weather conditions play ball, but it's also a good place just to drive up and have a look. And what we're going to do in a moment is have a look at the view from Cairngorm from the access road. And what it does is it gives us a good overview of the place we're going to go to today. As we turn around, you'll firstly see a body of water which is known as Loch Morlich, just coming into view now. This is the area where the king of the fairies, Big Donald, lives. The mountain, which has a very nice little snow cap on it there, is Míle Bhuachaill, which is the hill of the shepherd, and the one to the right is Craignagal, and just in the middle is a very nice little lochan known as Lochan Uaine, the Green Lochie, and that's where we're going to walk to. The walk takes us from Glenmore Lodge all the way to the little lochan. As you can see, Bran's still on his feet, so that means we haven't passed any fairies yet. The traditions in this area seem to suggest that the fairies are slightly shorter than other fairies in Scotland. They're also very well built, and there's also brownies in this area as well. They seem to have a great love of fiddle music and harp music, but also piping. This is the hill known as Craignagal, but it's also known as Cian Dhu de Covert in Gaelic, which means the Black Fairy Hill of the Two Lookouts. And this is where, apparently, according to some traditions, Big Donald, the king of the fairies, lives. Other traditions, however, put him to the west end of Loch Molech, and others on other hills in the area. This is the view over to Míle and Míle is a very nice walk that you can take from the Green Lochie. It goes past Raivon Bothy, which is also nice to spend a night in. It's a beautiful area, and it's great for cross-country skiing in the winter time as well, when there's enough snow. The Green Lochie, as you can see, has this incredible turquoisey green look about it. It's always that coloration, no matter what the weather conditions are like and no matter what the light conditions are like. There are lots of different traditions as to why that green might be there. Scientifically, it's a relative unknown as well. Scientifically, it may have something to do with ancient trees which lie at the bottom of the loch, some of which are over thousands of years old. There is a tree that was removed from Lochan Uaine, which appeared to show in the rings lots of history of climate change in the area and the storms that took place in the Cairngorms region. The traditional side of the story is that the Green Lochie gets its coloration from the Faeries coming down from Siandu de Covet to wash their clothes, and because of their green clothes, Cairngorm Faeries wearing green clothes all the time apparently, the green coloration from their clothing has gone off into the water. Now, this brings me to one of the potential historical truths of the story. As we come down to the Lochan side here, you can see just how beautiful it is, but it's incredibly deep. As you can see, the mountain goes up steeply from the loch side, and the issue here is that the water's depth gets incredibly deep incredibly quickly at the far side of the loch as well. So the whole idea of fairies coming down to wash their clothes on a regular basis may be to put a little bit of fear into young children. Fairy stories are certainly used to pass on information, even to this day in some areas of Scotland. Pass on that information to the younger children, younger generations, and to pass on information about things that could be dangerous. And so when we come to the Fairy Lochan, fairies are something that are to be avoided, effectively. When you look at the fairy traditions, especially on the west coast and the islands in the Highlands, you find that the traditions are about an outsider race of people. It actually may be referring, for the most part, to people of Norse origin. In this area in the Cairngorms, the Norse influence is slightly less, and that may be why the fairies in this region have different characteristics potentially, but there are still people that people are being warned away from. It's very interesting. It's difficult to prove exactly what the story is telling people, but in the case of the water, it may be that children are being warned away from the deep water, as it is quite a dangerous place. As you walk along the side here, you can see just how beautiful it is though. And when we come down to the side of the Lochan, you'll see that actually it's iced over on the trip that we're on here. The ice was incredibly thin, and this is another danger in the Cairngorms because we are quite high up in this area. The ice and the freezing temperatures do come for quite a long time every year. Even when there's not a full winter, we can have iced over lochs, and it can be very dangerous to walk out onto that ice, as Bran almost did before he thought better of it there. So, what about the fairies? Well, fairy tradition certainly goes back centuries in the Highlands of Scotland. In the Cairngorms and in Strathspey, fairy tradition was written down and recorded in 1823, 1855, 1869 and 1900. Those are the first real recordings of the folk tales, the traditions and the stories in the area. And some of those stories were to do with the music of the fairies. Certainly the fairy music of the Cairngorms is something that even today there are mountaineers who believe they have heard it when they've been out on the Cairngorm plateau. The fiddle music and the clarsach music in particular. There is also a 1937 story about Big Donald, and that is that he was a great piper. As we leave the side of the Green Lochie here, we're going to walk back to Glenmore Lodge, and then we're going to go off to the side of Loch Morlich at the end of the video. And it's this 1937 story that happened on the beach of Loch Morlich. The story goes that in 1937, the story had happened just previous to that, so what date it happened, I don't have any information about that, but somebody who apparently did not believe in the other world and did not believe in the stories of fairies was walking along this very beach at the side of Loch Morlich, looking back up towards the Cairngorm Plateau, and he heard some pipes coming towards him. And as he stood there, the pipes got closer and closer until they were right on his shoulder, and he had to move aside for the piper. But when he turned around, nobody was there. And he believed, to the day that he died apparently, that this was Big Donald, the king of the fairies.